On July 11, 2017, Jared Yates Sexton tweeted, "I worked on this story for a year," and he tweeted it out. This is the Museum of Twitter, the show where we talk about the most important tweets in the history of Twitter.com. There's a good chance that you've seen this phrase before, but you don't really remember where it came from. Because "I worked on this for a year," and he tweeted it out, is a meme and has been a meme for almost a decade. But the actual story behind it is pretty serious, and I do understand why Jared tweeted this. So, what happened? Jared Yates Sexton is an independent journalist who is working on a story for over a year about Donald Trump Jr. talking to Russian officials, or at least Russian nationals, about possibly getting dirt on Hillary Clinton. He had gotten it on background from multiple sources that Donald Trump Jr. was in contact with a lawyer with Kremlin ties, but he couldn't get anyone on the record, and so he was waiting for a smoking gun to come out. Or even better, he was looking to uncover a smoking gun himself. And right before the New York Times ended up publishing a story on this topic, Donald Trump Jr. tweeted out his email correspondences with someone who was putting him in touch with Russian nationals. And with those emails, he released a statement basically saying, "Someone had put me in touch with a Russian national who said they had opposition research on Hillary Clinton. I met with them and we actually just talked about adoption policy. This is nothing at all." And I think the thing that really perplexed Jared is that while he says that there's nothing going on, he is admitting to meeting with a foreign national about getting dirt on a political opponent. I know we're all numb to how crazy politics have gotten in the Trump years, but that is just not a thing that you're supposed to do. Don Jr. says, "Oh, this wasn't a government official," but you're really not supposed to meet with foreign nationals to get dirt on your domestic political opponents. It only takes 5 seconds to think like, wait, maybe you don't want foreign nationals influencing an election with dirt that they might have fabricated. And on top of that, he left out email exchanges that the New York Times obtained, specifically an exchange where Rob Goldstone, the attorney who was connecting with these people, said, "This is obviously very high level and sensitive information, but is part of Russia and its government support for Mr. Trump." And while the message went on to talk about other stuff, Don Jr. responded with, "Seems like we have some time, and if it's what you say, I love it." None of this is the smoking gun of smoking guns, but this is not exonerating material. So that's why I go back to Jared's reaction making perfect sense. If these emails actually exonerated Don Jr. from what he was being accused of, it would make more sense. It's okay, he has proof that he didn't do this. But this is just kind of proof that he might have done it. Personally, if I was trying to prove that I was not colluding with the Kremlin on a domestic political matter, I would not tweet out an email exchange where I was talking to someone with Kremlin ties about setting me up with a Russian national. And I'm really not going into this because I want to relitigate the whole Trump-Russia thing, although there obviously was something going on there, and I think people were expecting for a phone call between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin to be leaked, and anything short of that was going to make it seem like a hoax. But come on, let's look at the facts. Something was going on there. But anyway, that's not why I'm bringing all this up. I'm bringing this up because I really want to emphasize that while this seems like kind of self-righteous journalist bullshit, being "Oh, we just tweeted it out," it's it makes no sense in the way that we used to think about politics to tweet this out. And the thing that I hate, because I never really want to give credit to Don Jr., is that this as a strategy completely worked. And in an interview that Jared Yates Sexton did right after this with the Columbia Journalism Review, he was asked, what does something like this mean going forward, and he said, incredibly presciently, "What it concerns me is I'm already seeing a lot of people who are saying, this is nothing. It doesn't mean anything. You're inflating this. This isn't collusion." Adding, "I actually think in the wake of this being released, we're going to have more arguments about reality as opposed to evidence. I think that's what's going to be a really tiring thing going through the next few days." I think what he's getting at is a phenomenon that we saw a lot in the Trump years, which is that people don't think that something is a big news story if it's done out in the open. That people think of a political scandal as something that is uncovered by Woodward and Bernstein, not something that's just tweeted out. That if they're willing to say it out in the open, it clearly can't be that bad, and if someone else tries to make a big deal of it and say, "Hey, look at this scandal they just admitted to," people will go, "That's old news, they already said it." I think the reason for this is that our news media is entirely focused around covering scandals, and scandals involve things like uncovering things and gumshoe journalists digging deep. And so if the awful thing is just a thing that's tweeted out, the news media doesn't know how to handle it. It's "Oh, it's a tweet. That means it's normal. That means it can't be that bad." But that's what this means in the context of the news, and that's not why you guys are watching this. You're watching it to see the way that it was used in jokes. Basically, people love to say it whenever they quote tweet a dumb headline, a dumb picture, a dumb anything. And it happened almost immediately. Just a few days afterwards, Jeremy Woodcock found a headline that says, "Evander Holyfield admits to punching a pregnant horse in the jaw before being the first housemate to be evicted on Celebrity Big Brother." And Jeremy Woodcock says, "I worked on this story for a year," and they tweeted it out. The day after the original tweet, Chooch quote tweeted Drill's tweet that just says, "No," with "I worked on this story for a year," and he just tweeted it out. Even recently, Frank Zeppo quote tweeted a Variety article that's called "How to Watch Family Guy Online" with "I worked on this story for a year," and he just tweeted it out. I saw the TV Glow filmmaker Jane Schoenbrunn quote tweeted Mr. Beast saying, "A24, what if we make a scripted horror movie where when the people get eliminated in my videos, they die?" Jane said, "I worked on this story for a year," and he tweeted it out. And I actually once tweeted it, and I didn't remember what it was, and the image that I'm quote tweeting from Zack Snyder is gone. It's no longer on Twitter, and I was really confused. And when I did some digging, I found out it's when Zack Snyder posted a comic drawing of Batman going down on Catwoman with the caption "Canon." And I said, I worked on the story for a year, and he tweeted it out. And honestly, yep, that's exactly the type of joke I would make, especially 4 years after the original tweet. You'd always stay relevant, Jake. The thing that all the joke examples I showed have in common, and all the times that this is used as a joke have in common, is that it is being used ironically to imply that there's a seriousness to the thing that's being quote-tweeted. Like the joke in the Frank Zappa one is that it's very funny to imagine someone working on a story for a year, and that story is just how to watch Family Guy online. Like whenever there's an irrelevant piece of news or an obvious piece of news, you can just slap, I worked on the story for a year on there, and it's funny. And so I'm sure that Jared Yates Sexton is still pretty frustrated about how this went down. I hope that some part of him is happy that he has an important part of Twitter lexicon to his name. It's not as valuable as like a Pulitzer he could have won if he actually finished reporting the story, but it's valuable nonetheless. Based on my rough math, more people in history have gotten Pulitzer Prizes than have had tweets entered into the Museum of Twitter, so that's something to tell your mom about. Follow me for a new tweet every day and consider subscribing at patreon.com/Museum of Twitter, where you get things like my series, The Museum of Not Twitter, where I cover a thing that was big on the internet that did not start on Twitter, and you also can vote on what I cover on Subscriber Sundays.